So when you are walking around a store where you really feel like you're finding information, or where you really feel like you're successfully finding what you need, noting what makes that successful is really, really a good way to find a good way to visually place things. And then the key is really to apply that to your library, and going through your library as if you're a new patron who's never been there before, and giving them visual cues on where to go and what to do. And then finally, branding. To go back to my Target example, if you've ever gone into Target wearing a red shirt, you know what I mean. People ask you where, to try things on or to check out, because everybody knows that people who work at Target wear red shirts. And so they've been extremely consistent with their branding, using just colors and that little Target thing. And even if you don't have, Adobe Illustrator, or you're not a graphic designer, or you don't have the expertise or the money to do big graphic design development for your library, you can still brand by using consistent fonts, consistent font colors, and just making sure that you do that in a way that tells people, like, this is where I need to go if I want to check out my book. So hopefully at this point you've figured out a couple of things in your library that don't make sense. You've come up with some cool ideas on how you might want to change them, and you're ready to apply them. The next key is really getting people to buy into what you want to do. I'm a big fan of the trial, and that's basically saying to anybody that you want to do something with their stuff, hey, listen, I would like to make a change for 2 weeks. And the screen just went. Okay, never mind. I would like to make a change for 2 weeks, and I would like to try this out. And if it fails miserably, I will put it back the way it was. And if it doesn't, then cool. Is that okay? And David Lankes from Syracuse is one of my all-time favorite speakers. If you've ever heard him speak, he's just absolutely amazing. And he talks about this a little in some of the talks that I've heard from him. This is something that is mentioned quite often in the Harvard Business Review. I've heard it from Maureen Sullivan, who's our new ALA president. Go Maureen. And it's really, really effective at getting people to basically do things that they don't want to do. So you just say, like, hey, let's move the photocopier. Okay, and if people complain about it, you can tell me, and they'll tell you, because they want to tell you that people are complaining about the thing that you're changing. And that's okay, because you want to hear the complaints. You want to be able to get some feedback. And you just go for it. So right now at our library, we're trialing double-sided printing, and we've set all the printers to default to double-sided printing. And people really didn't want to do this. They felt like the expectation was single-sided printing. They felt that the students wouldn't understand how to change it, and they would have a really hard time with the change. So what we did is we said, we're just going to do a 2-week trial. And we are going to, make some signs. We're going to make the change. And if people don't like it, if people complain, we'll change it back. It's no big deal. It's absolutely no big deal. But if people do like it, it's going to save us lots of money, and it's going to be a really good way to, be environmentally friendly at our college, to be more fiscally friendly, and to, just give the students and teachers less paper to carry around. So, we had a couple of very loud opponents who really didn't want us to do this, but we pushed forward and we did a survey with the students and or with the faculty, and it turned out that only 10 faculty out of 130 actually didn't want us to do this. They were just speaking a lot louder than the other 120 faculty, and we did make the change. We did it as a trial, and really no one's complained at all. We've actually had little to no complaints whatsoever, and it's actually shocking how little complaints we actually had. So all of the people who were really, really nervous about doing this actually feel like maybe we might have been right all along, and maybe it might be okay. So now that the trial has been successful, we're going to implement it in the computer labs in the tutoring center next. Okay. So now we have a problem. We have our desired change, and we have our buy-in from coworkers, and we have the thing that we want to do. But how do we know if we're successful? People love to complain about things, so complaints are a good way to figure out where things are going wrong. If everyone's complaining about one thing, chances are there's something wrong there. Observation is extremely helpful. I'm sure many of you have read or heard the University of Rochester's ethnographic study about how students use the library. That, I feel like, is one of the most amazingly informative and helpful studies I've ever read, because they really talk about how to see students using the space, and that goes for patrons as well. And there's a lot of really easy and free ways you can do that. You can walk around the library and just see how students are using the space. You can observe how they're moving chairs. If they're all moving chairs near the plugs, you need to move your chairs near the plugs, things like that. So making those observations and really speaking with people and listening to complaints are a good way to gather information. The other thing is just making friends with the students and asking them, how's it going? Jenica Rogers at SUNY Potsdam had that amazing moment where she saw some chalk writing on the sidewalk talking about, the study was the University of Rochester, did an ethnographic study. Jenica saw some chalk writing on the sidewalk, and it was complaining about how the library closed too early on Friday, and so she wrote back to them. And I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was such a brilliant moment. And so we have whiteboards in our classroom, and I write notes on it like, how do you like the new classroom? And the students write back. I leave markers to them, and they'll write back, we like the new chairs, but they're not that comfortable, or things like that. And then we try to make we try to give feedback and make changes based on their suggestions. And I literally do that with the chalkboard that we have in the classroom, and the dry erase markers that we have. So that's all free too. And then finally, once you've made your change and you've made your observations and you've gotten your feedback, you probably have to tweak it. That's no big deal. That's why the trial thing is very handy, because it's not a big fat failure if it's a trial and you need to make some changes. And I know everybody's cool with failing, but it still makes you feel a little better if you can say to your college president, look, this was just a trial and we made these changes. Then you look very responsive, so that's always a good thing. And then finally, there's this change management talk that David Lankus did for the Connecticut Library Association Leadership Symposium. It was not last summer, it was the summer before, so that was, 2009, thank you. And he talked about change management, and he talks about how people like to be frozen, and then they want things to stay the same. So when you want to change something, you need to unfreeze the thing, change it, and then refreeze them back to where it was, so that they feel, like they're not going to be changed again, that things don't keep continuing to change. And that was another really, really meaningful thing for me to hear when I did my library renovation. Was as soon as things were done, it was very important for me to freeze things back, so that the people in the library didn't feel like things were going to continue to change. And it's just as soon as they got used to the new space, maybe we would change it again. So we did that by just leaving things alone. And basically, I would write emails on a weekly basis saying, these are the things that have happened, these are the things that are going to happen, here's where your expectations are, and these are the things that are all set, and don't worry about them anymore. And that really did a lot to ease people's fears, because we were basically picking up the circulation desk and moving it to a different floor. We knocked walls out and made a new door on the library. So we were making huge, major changes that changed how people did their work. And it was very unsettling for them. And so just being really cognizant of that and being really sensitive to that, and just reminding them that, once the change is over, things will be okay again, was a really important part of the process. So, anybody can make their library easier to use and more beautiful and more accessible for all types of users, including people with disabilities. That's something that you absolutely want to consider when you're making any signs at all. Inspiration can come from a number of places. Designers, noticing what works when you're out in the world, patron feedback, trialing new ideas, and basically don't be afraid to make changes or have changes you make fail miserably, and let your space tell the user what to expect. That's about all I have. Yay!
Digital round of applause. Digital round of applause.